Hello and welcome to another video. So I wanted to try a Dragon PDK list for Unlimited and I found one that really suited what I wanted. So this is a pretty aggressive deck overall. We are running, I think, 7 legendaries. Yeah, 7 legendaries, pretty straightforward. 2 Dragon Infinity, 3 Dragon Forte, and 2 Disdain. Pretty solid deck overall. I still only use the same pretty casually, and most of this is just about more of aggression. Serpent Drake being a great for that. Absolutely loving that card. I'm actually considering maybe even upping it to 3 and dropping something else down, but just a lot of fun, so we're going to get right into it and check it out. First up, everyone's favourite thing to fight, Blood. So the advantage with this deck is it's hyper aggressive, so being able to go extremely fast, flood the board, constantly deal with your opponent's threats, and really just overall really mess with Blood. That's really what you need. So as long as you don't brick your opener, which is very possible, being able to brick and draw high cards is always bad, but you're running that many small cards, the odds of that are decreased pretty low. So we start off solid with the Goblin. Then we have a pretty nice setup for turn 2 and turn 3, or we can follow up with something else. We've really got a few options here, and of course Blood didn't have an ideal curve, but even if they had a really good curve, we would have dealt with them pretty consistently, as Disdain Rending is actually quite a good card. So there is the Ambling Wraith. So I should have probably went for Servant of Disdain and maybe played Disdainful Rend. That was definitely what I considered doing. I think that might have been better, but I think holding on to the Disdaining Rend was a good idea, as you see here, the 5/3 is just a little bit of a pain to deal with. And now we get a couple of these Serpent Drakes out, of which one has been damaged, meaning we're going to get another one at the start of our opponent's turn, which is great for PDK, which surprisingly, I never had to actually use the PDK in this match or in any of my matches so far. Well, actually, now I think about it, there is no PDK in this deck. Wow. Huh. Revelation. So it's not a PDK deck. For some reason, when I originally looked at this deck, for some reason I thought instantly Prince of Dragonkeeper. Not the case, so keep that in mind. I've been listing as PDK, but it's not. It's just a very aggressive dragon deck using a Disdain engine, which there's nothing completely wrong with that. I just need to remember that it's not PDK now. Anyway, that's still pretty fine. I'll make sure the video title reflects my stupidity, but that's fine. So pretty solid, as you can see here. We built an extremely powerful board very, very quickly. We've also got the Hippogriff Rider, which is going to be in extremely solid play next turn. We should be easily able to clear out the mask play and then just hit face for well and truly lethal at this point. So very, very easy. We're actually 2 over, being pretty perfect for that matchup. So you've basically seen what this deck was really good at in that matchup. We're also going up against Sword for this next one, which is a little more control orientated for the Sword player. I've played a few matches with this deck, and it didn't really take too much to get a hold of it and really get used to it. And it did fairly well against most of the decks I had fought. Considering it is aggressive, it beats out a lot of the really slow decks, while at the same time beating out things like Dark Feast Bat pretty easily. And even if you don't beat out Dark Feast Bat, the odds of them killing you, because of how much board pressure you put down, is still reasonably low. It'll still normally take them a couple of turns after 7 to really beat you down, unless, of course, they have an absolutely perfect curve and you have an absolutely atrocious curve, in which case your luck is shocking and there is not much you could do about that. But in a situation like this, we're pretty right. We're able to consistently flood the board, we're able to deal with this 2-2 pretty easily, and we're able to go face just nicely. That doesn't mean the game will go smoothly the whole way along, as knowing Sword, they're going to have a few little tricks up their sleeve to really annoy us. But Serpent Drake is a pretty perfect pickup off the top there. It's going to at least put a threat down, which has to be dealt with now, as it is going to only grow faster and faster. And even though they're going to pick up a 3 for 2 here, basically, I would say, pretty effectively, we're not in too much trouble, as even just having this 1/1 on board and having the Omen of Disdain, it should be enough to at least protect us this turn. So I definitely wouldn't mind trying maybe a PDK variant of this. After all, I think that this deck could work quite nicely with it. Although, considering what's in this deck, it may be a little slow, which is why it's not a PDK deck, even though I initially thought it was, because running everything a PDK deck would normally run. Very aggressive, low-cost card, so no surprise there. So they get a pretty nice pickup. Unfortunately, we're not getting quite as nice a pickup, but this Serpent Drake is pretty decent. And even with that draw there, we're still pretty okay. We're going to be able to pick up a couple of kills here, along with getting another Serpent Drake, and making it hard to remove both at the same time. Definitely one of my favourite cards, Serpent Drake. I knew it was going to be fairly decent, as it had a pretty solid effect. And for a bronze card, I think it probably even could have been a silver card, considering. Our opponent just kind of picking us off pretty casually, not really doing anything too threatening. Unfortunately, I had to come up with a way to do this, and there wasn't a good one, so I did have to sacrifice a little bit here, which was a little disappointing. But it was worthwhile to get the 4 damage to face that we're really going to need. But at this point, if they can set up a pretty much impenetrable board, we might be in trouble. Of course, this is looking good for us. All low-cost cards, no real issue, and we've got lethal on board. We also picked up the Phoenix Rider, which is more than enough, giving us 9 damage just there, excluding what we would have got extra, which would have been absolutely crazy. So this deck is definitely a short and sharp one. You are going to know whether you're going to win it pretty early on in the match. Sometimes you might have a turnaround and you get those lucky Storm top decks, so you don't want to ever just quit outright unless you are absolutely being dominated by wards. But considering the current meta, this deck does exceptionally well. It's not too legendary heavy. I mean, 7 these days is actually pretty reasonable. The only one most of you guys probably won't have might be Dark Dragoons, as they are an older card from an older set. So unless you have been a long time player, you might not have those, which might be a little bit of a disadvantage. But you could nearly swap those out with any kind of high-end dragon card. I mean, anything that can kind of do decent storm damage in the 6 to 7 slot should be fine. So if you did enjoy this video, hit the like button and subscribe. If you want to check out this deck, deck list will be in the description below. Till next time, see ya.